Hello again, I am Jim Bob and welcome back to Felsbrunn Farm. Very early start for us this morning. I kind of want to see what our sunrise looks like without the trees in the way. It's been a long time since we've had that. So I thought we'll get an early start this morning so we can see that sun cresting over the hill. And if we take a quick look at our field, you can see that we have had some weeds grow overnight. No crop growth yet though. That's fine. We'll get the weeder out and start prepping that field. We also need to fertilise our field as well, so we'll get a worker to do one while we do the other. Let's see, we'll get the worker to run the weeder, we'll run the sprayer or spreader. There we go. And this way we'll be able to move further ahead than the weeder because we'll have a wider spraying distance. So I set the weeder up just there. And because we don't have any crop growth yet, we don't need to worry about changing our wheels over yet either. But we will obviously have to do that as crops start to grow in. We'll risk damaging them. Fine at the moment though. So let's get hooked up to our breedle. Only 1,000 litres left in there. We're going to need to put a little bit more in, because we've got 3 fields to fertilise. Back up towards the pallets. Let's go for another one as well. Let's put 3,000 litres in the back of this. That should be enough. There we go. So the spread distance on this thing is actually pretty wide. I'm trying to remember exactly how wide it is in fertiliser mode, but I think here should cover it. I'm going to hire a worker just to get it started so I can check. Oh yeah, comfortably. Okay, so let's get the weeder up and running. There we go. And we'll run this. There we go. There's that sun starting to crest the hill. Just behind those trees, I think. There it is. There's our sun. This really does feel much wider and open, more open now that those trees are gone. I got so used to seeing them there. Without having them there, it does feel a little exposed, I suppose. Like I said, I'm so used to having that row of trees between the 2 fields. It's now all just one big field. We do still have that leftover lumber, don't forget. And we do still have 2 trees left over as well. I'm a little off target there. Let's reposition. That should do it. There we go. We do still have the leftover lumber in our trailer over by the chickens. We'll check on the progress of the chickens as well, see if they've bred any more as well. And we've still got those 2 last remaining trees as well. I'm pretty confident that we cut the trees down at their highest point, but a lot of people have also been saying that there's still one more stage to go, and given how tall those trees are right now, I figure we can afford to leave those there for a little while and see if they do end up even taller, and we'll be able to sort of cut them down and compare them to the trees that we have in the back of the trailer, because we're not going to sell the trees that are left today. We'll probably do that tomorrow instead. So assuming that we do get some more growth, that should happen tomorrow. Once we've got this weeding and fertilising done, we'll turn plant growth back up again. It's turned off at the moment. At least I think it's turned off. Let's double check. Yes, it is turned off. So this will allow us to get these fields fertilised before they start to grow a stage, which will be problematic for us going forward, because we've got to do another stage again later. Plus, it also gets the weeding out the way again, nice and early, so that we don't have to worry about that until after the harvest and the next round of planting. And a little bit cloudy this morning, you can see some clouds in the sky, clouds on the weather radar. Let's just check on our weeding progress. 2 passes done. It's going to take a little while. I am seriously toying with the idea of getting a larger weeder. I don't think we're going to need this one going forward. We do have a bit of cash at our disposal. The other weeder is quite expensive though. I mean, we're not going to get a massive amount back for the one that we've got already, because we've had it and used it quite a bit now. But 45 grand for the larger weeder here, the Treffler one. As much as I would like to use it, I don't want to use up half of my available money on a weeder. So I might just stick with the one that we have for now, and be done with it. Not quite sure how to go with that yet. Needs more thought, more pondering, I think. We've had more new mods, well, I say new mods, more mods from Farming Sim 17 brought across by Giants as well. They've added in a few bits of extra equipment, the most recent ones being the Black Beauty, which was a DLC tractor in Farming Sim 17, so it wasn't part of the base game. So it's quite nice to see that one make its way over. And the Brochard manure spreader, which was part of the Big Bud DLC. Obviously, most of the Big Bud DLC equipment is already in the game in one form or another, either as base game equipment or slightly rebranded. Obviously, the Seed Hawk being an example of a rebrand. It was just Seed Hawk in FS17. It's now Vardestad Seed Hawk in FS19. And obviously the buds were released as a mod pack as well. I do like the the new 450 with those wheel options. It's fantastic. So it shouldn't take us too long to get this field spread with fertilizer. You can see, actually, because we're still in the initial planting stage, even though the weeds have grown, you can still see the dark patch where we had a little bit of fertilizer from the planting. Because that ran out so quickly, I'm not going to bother putting more fertilizer in it, in that seeder again. We'll just stick to seed when we use that thing. But when I went back to try and fill in those bits that got skipped, you can see that it just replaced the fertilized texture with non-fertilized texture for the whole area that I ran the seeder over, not just the little bit that got planted, which is a little weird. I'm not quite sure why it did that. So that's why we've got that weird little blob on the end there that cuts into that darker patch. And you'll spot that in other places as well. So just there was just a thin line, and you can see these big chunks where it's completely overwritten the fertilized texture with a non-fertilized texture. But it's very strange the way it's done that. Let's get rid of the weed texture for a second. And you can see, actually, we forgot to lime our field. Whenever you cut new ground, you always have to lime it. And I completely forgot about that. I'm not going to do it this harvest. We'll just have that strip as is. But going forward, I will make sure that we lime the field. and that way we won't have any issues. There's our egg trailer, loads of eggs in the back of there. Our log trailer parked up ready and waiting to be taken to the lumber mill. And we've still got 2,000 litres of fertiliser left. So we've used up about 1,000 litres or so getting this big field done. And you can see we are still going to have an overlap. Or at least using this particular piece of equipment, we're going to have an overlap again at the end of the field. Maybe it'll be a little bit different with the sprayer as opposed to the spreader. But we should be okay, I think. And we're actually putting down another layer of fertiliser in places, look, because we changed that soil texture, which is why we've got that little dark blue line up here. And we'll see it a bit more on this corner. It'll actually put in a second stage. We're going to stop the worker as soon as he gets to the end, because we don't really want to do that all the way along. But there you can see just that little corner piece there. Oh, in fact, actually, that's showing us not fertilised at all. So, yeah, we will need to just do this little corner piece. Oh, yeah, I remember this whole corner piece. This didn't want to actually fertilise at all, if you remember. For some strange reason. I don't know why, but it just... That was the most annoying and disappointing thing about the new seeder, was that it just didn't want to fertilise, or didn't want to seed. Quite a big chunk of that field there. Alright, let's move across onto this field here. So I think that should do it. Yep, there we go. So we get this field done. Then we can move across and we can get field 5 done as well. Still really want to get field 4 as a really nice piece of land there. Very expensive though, considering a lot of that land isn't really going to be all that usable for us unless we plant trees. I mean, we could do that. And I've been toying with the idea of what to do with the strip of land over by, running alongside field 1. And I think going forward, we may well just initially plant a few trees on there just to fill the land up a little bit. But going forward, I think that might be, because it's a reasonably thinnish kind of strap of land, a nice little strip of land, sorry. I think that might be a good place for us to put in, once we've got enough cash to really justify doing it, a good place for us to put in some poplar. Put in a few strips of poplar that we can then harvest. The biggest problem with poplar is that there's only one way to harvest it, and it is ridiculously expensive to actually get the harvesting equipment that we need. We need a forage harvester and a very specific header, and it costs so much that unless you're going to do poplar on a big scale, it doesn't really make sense to do poplars. But if you are going to do poplars on a big scale, you need a lot of storage space, and we just don't really have any of that available to us at this point. So poplars kind of not really worth doing at this point. We could make a whole load of wood chips, and then we just have to dump them in big piles on land that we own, and just leave them there. We wouldn't be able to stick them in a storage bin or a silo or a building of some kind. Well, I suppose you could perhaps use one of the brand new mod sheds and dump them inside there, but yeah, it's clunky at the moment trying to do wood chips on a big scale. So yeah, I think we'll leave that for some time. But that land certainly does, if we jump out, certainly does open up the opportunity to do quite a nice long strip of poplar all the way along here, because you can see the ground isn't too badly sloped. It's a little bit steeper at this end, but if you move down here, it's all relatively flat as well. There's no really bad lumpy bumpy bits like we've got around some of our other fields. And just look at this, okay, there's a little bit of a bump there, but we just got this long strip here that you could just quite comfortably plant a lot of poplar along, and really take advantage of this land. We could also maybe get a mower and we could bale this section here as well. That might be another way that we could go with this bit of land. I do want to do something with it because we own it. We want to do something with it. I'm not quite sure what yet. But yeah, we definitely do need to do something with it. So I'm going to carry on getting these fields weeded and fertilised. And I'll catch up with you in a little while. Again, as we move over to here, you can see on the north side of the road, when we do pick up this plot of land, again, it's quite a big area there on the way up to the railway line where we could do something. I don't know, again, I don't know what, but there is definitely space for something there, and a lot of space for this ground here to be completely reworked. That large chunk of grass there behind the house that isn't being used could easily be joined into our existing field here. Put us in a very good position going forward. So are we going to have ownership issues stopping us from fertilising along here? No, we're okay at the moment. We seem to be okay at the moment. Yep, we're good. Okay. But yeah, I mean, you can just see how big this field would be once we do finally get ownership of that, you know, parcel of land around Field 4. Really would make a massive difference to the yield over here. And you can see how much bigger this field is compared to what it was originally. With the extension that we cut, it made it absolutely huge. We could certainly do something very similar once we get the next parcel as well. It's just a little bit awkward at this end because of the way the field is shaped. Let's try and just ease that off a little bit, shallow that angle out of it. And that's what I was doing during the harvesting as well, to make this a little bit of an easier corner. I did make it quite a shallow angle as opposed to the sort of 45-degree angle it is at the moment. I mean, in theory, the worker should still work on a 45-degree angle, but there does come a point where he gets a little bit lost and a little bit confused, so shallowing that angle out keeps him going. So, fertilising is done. Let's give this a quick clean before we put it back in the shed. Just clean those wheels off more than anything else. And the lower frame. There we go. Our weeder still hasn't finished on field 1. This is what I'm talking about getting a larger weeder. It just takes so much longer to get stuff done with a 9-metre working width compared to a 15-metre working width that it does seem that the upgrade would be a simple, straightforward decision. It's just, you know, it's a lot of money. And I don't really want to spend it on an unnecessary upgrade when we can kind of make do with what we have. So, right, let's check out the contracting situation. Let's just turn the weeds back on. There we go. So let's see what jobs are available for us. Oh, we're going to check the chickens, weren't we? So we're up to 61 chickens now, breeding at 4 hours 15 minutes. These roosters don't seem to have made any difference. You know, at least adding a second one didn't make a difference. Not entirely sure why. So I'm actually going to go and get rid of those roosters and see if that affects my reproduction rate at all. Because if they don't, and it's just there for the sake of being there, then it would be better for us just to not have them and free up space for an extra 2 egg-laying chickens. So let's move those. Confirm. And it doesn't want to let me sell my roosters. Ugh. Move. Move. Confirm. Yep. It's not. Oh, it's because I've got a negative bank balance. Even though I'm trying to sell, because it wants to take a fee off me at the same time, because I don't have enough money to cover the fee, it won't let me sell my chickens. So I have to take money out to make money. That's ridiculous. It's poor coding. I understand the reason why. It's just, take the money off the sale. Don't make it a separate charge, which then stops me from doing it. That's why it's not letting me buy, or not letting me sell my roosters, because I have a fee for selling them of €15 per rooster, which is ridiculous. And that ridiculous fee is stopping me from being able to actually sell them, because I don't have a positive balance to cover the €30 charge, even though I'm going to earn, €50 for the sale of the roosters. Yeah, like I said, it's silly, poorly thought out. That code could have been implemented in a much better way. Let's stick these egg boxes in here. We're getting to the point where we're going to need to take a run down to the store. Actually, we're getting a lot of eggs here, and don't forget, we can't bulk sell these from a trailer like this, which is again a bit frustrating. Go on, get in there. Now that one's off. There we go. Pick up this box. And the next one. Take that one there, because the one behind it is a partial box. This one's probably a partial box as well, actually, from reloading the save file, but there we go. So, some more eggs stacked away in there. So, more disappointment with the chickens. Let's go check out contracts. What can we do? A lot of harvesting jobs today. A lot of harvesting jobs. I was paying $7,000 for field 16. That's not bad. 12 grand here. Oh, it's potatoes. Yeah, I've done enough potato jobs. I don't really want to do any more. Wow, it's just like every field almost needs to be harvested. That's a lot of harvesting. We could take our combine on tour, but as I say, it's a little bit small. How about if we were to lease? A few of you have been saying keep the New Holland combine, just get a bigger header for it. Generally, I don't like to mix and match brands when it comes to combine equipment, so I wouldn't like to permanently have a Rostelmash header on a New Holland combine. It just, to me, it looks a bit wonky. But I mean, we could, for the purposes of doing this contract, we could lease this. How much would it cost to lease this? $4,000. Ooh, that's quite pricey, isn't it? I was thinking we could lease that header and then just go and just do harvest after harvest after harvest, and we'd be able to plough through them pretty quickly. But yeah, again, not really necessary. See, this was the header I was thinking of getting. Same cost actually as our current header, but an extra meter in working width. It would certainly speed up our own harvests, wouldn't it? For me, the visual look of an off-brand header, that we can't even try and visually disguise on a combine, just looks a bit weird and a bit yeah. I mean, I know there are specific manufacturers out there that just do headers, and with those I don't have any issue with, but using a header that's been designed for a very specific combine on a very different combine, to me always just feels a little bit wrong. I think it's possibly just my autism kicking in. It just, because I know that they weren't intended to be put together, when they were added to the equipment roster. It just means that a switch flips in my head and it stops me from doing it. I don't know. I don't know where to take our own combine off on the road. It would save us leasing costs. And there's quite a few combining jobs out there, but with such a small header, they're going to take us ages to do. I mean, field 16 here. Let's have a look at field 16. Yeah, it's the one down by the railroad silo. That's a pretty decent sized field, and it's going to take us a long time to get there. I really would like to get rid of our combine because it's slow and cumbersome. And let's see, how much could we invest into a new combine? What about one of these Massey's, for example? 202,000. That's the cheapest, other option, really, isn't it? 202,000, and then obviously a header to go with it as well, which we know is about 60,000, I think. 50,000. So, yeah, that is a lot. That's 250 grand that we don't have. Our combine, I can possibly get that up to about 60 grand. If I sell it at the store, 75, maybe 80, including the trailer as well. So we would need to come up with 170,000, and we just don't have 170,000. I do like the idea of the Nova. Not least because of the bigger header, but I think the Nova's just going to be faster on the roads as well. I mean, our combine is slow. How fast is this one? Oh, that's only 12 miles an hour. That's even slower. Oh, well, if I forget that then. Yeah, we won't even look at the Rostelmash Nova. We'll use that on another playthrough somewhere. Yeah, alright, let's just... There is a thing you can do with contracting, which I'm a little on the fence about, and that is to basically lease a harvester as part of a job, and then you don't turn it in at the end, and you drive off to the next job using the equipment you've just used. So I'll show you that in action. Let's start with fields. I don't come all the way up to field 4, that's all the way up here for us. Let's do field 27. So we'll lease the equipment on this. Let's make our way over. So there's the Stara and the trailer. Let's go over to field 27, which isn't too far away. One of these sort of fields on the bottom of the hill, running up to the hotel. And there it is, the other side of the little road there, field 27. You can just see it coming into view. And we've got a great demand at the grain mill. I don't think we've got anything left to sell. I think we've sold everything that we own. So we'll park that there. Let's just check that great demand out. And it's for canola. It's not a good price at the moment, so I'm not too worried. Let's jump over to the combine. It's a pretty good sized combine this, so pretty pokey as well. And has a draper header. Ooh! That could have been bad. He's honking us. You too, buddy. Although that was kind of my fault. I can't really avoid taking the blame for that one. That was very much my fault for just pulling out in front of him at point blank range. There we go, I meant to zoom out a bit, not switch vehicles. I do need to get my worker moved on to the next field, so we'll do that just before we start the combining. But the basic principle of this theory, which I wasn't aware of but was pointed out in the comments, and I have since tested, and it does actually work, is that you lease the equipment for one round of jobs, and when the job is done, instead of actually turning it in as a completed contract, you just accept the next one, go off and use the same equipment you've just leased to go and do the next contract. It means that you don't have to keep paying lease fees on every single harvesting job out there. You can just lease one harvester and one tractor trailer, etc., and then use it to do a series of different harvesting jobs. And I'm on the fence as to how I feel about that, whether I think it's too much of an exploit or not. I mean, the lease costs for leasing the equipment aren't particularly high, depending on the contract that you take. But over the period of multiple jobs, they add up very, very quickly, and they vary as well depending on the job. Sometimes leasing the same equipment on two different jobs can vary in terms of how much it will take from you, how much it will deduct. That does away with all of those variables where you just pay one single lease fee, and then that's it. I'm not, like I say, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. I think going forward I probably won't do it on a regular basis, but we're going to do it here just to kind of show the theory in action, and also because we are kind of really a little bit desperate for cash in terms of helping to clear our debt a little bit. Let's put in a headland at the bottom, or a pass at the bottom anyway. Let's try and square this edge off a bit. So once I've done this particular contract, I'll be able to, instead of turning this in as a complete contract, obviously we're still delivering all the grain, we're still doing all the work, but when it comes to the end and we go to complete contract in the contract menu, instead of turning it in, we just take another harvesting contract, and then we can use this equipment going over, because the minute you turn in and complete the contract, that gets rid of the equipment. So by just taking another job on instead, the equipment stays there. I don't think you pay a per hour use on anything you lease for a contract. I think it's just that one-off fee that you pay. Now if we do get charged per hour, then I'm going to be much more comfortable actually using that. So I'm going to keep an eye on that as well, see if we rack up an hour's use, see if we get charged an extra fee. And I kind of hope we do, because then it kind of makes this a more legitimate way of doing things. And you know me, I don't like to try and take too much advantage of the system. There are times when I will do, times when I'll use a mechanic to my advantage, but very rarely, and I certainly don't go looking for exploits on a regular basis, and I don't do it, just hammer exploits as soon as they're found out. I try and keep things a bit more simplistic, but given the way leasing works and the contracting system works, to do this in a quote unquote much more legitimate way of just leasing a combine from the store and then going around and doing the work means you would actually lose money, because the leasing costs for anything other than the very smallest equipment are so astronomically high, when you combine the per hour rate in there as well, that by the time you've completed a contract, you've actually lost money. And then you go on to another contract and you end up losing more money. So it's not a case of you'll ever make a profit. You know, you hire a combine of this size, you need to harvest multiple fields to even come close to, you know, complete multiple contracts to even make a dent on the leasing costs. And of course, while you're doing that, you're using it and you hit another hour, and then boom, your lease costs have just gone through the roof, and you have to try and it's like a gambler chasing a bad gamble. They lose money and they throw good money after bad, trying to win back what they lost, and you never do. You just keep losing and losing and losing. So yeah, it's a little bit of an exploity kind of thing to do it this way, but it's impossible to do it any other way with just a single leased vehicle, because you would bankrupt yourself after just half a dozen contracts or so. It would be ridiculous. So I really hope that gets looked at in the future. I mean, I like the principle of the new contracting system. I just think it needs a bit of work in terms of costs versus payouts. They just don't quite seem to work quite right. It'd be quite nice if you could, you know, lease some equipment to do contracting and carry that across through multiple jobs and pay a small fee per job, perhaps, with just one set of equipment, rather than separate equipment for a whole series, you know, for each individual job. You know, like I said, it needs to be reevaluated a little bit. Nothing major needs to change. It doesn't need a huge complete overhaul. It just needs to be tweaked, I think, in my opinion, just a little bit, and that will really help to make contracting a bit better, I think, without having to resort to, you know, looking for exploits. So here we are then. This is the first contract just about complete. There we go. So we'll empty this into the trailer, take this off to, where is it? Is it Port Southeast that we need to go to? Yeah, Port Southeast. Let's wait for the last little bit of grain to go in. There we go. And off we go. Our worker is still diligently weeding away for us. And we'll make this quick run over. Oh, wouldn't you know it? Going to get into a confrontation with another one of those trucks again. There we go. We'll kind of go a little bit off-road to avoid a head-on collision there. And we'll take this route. This is going to be the quickest route, I think. Make our way around the back of the store, come down to the roundabouts, a left then a right, and we should be there. I'm not even sure how much this job pays out. It's not much. I think it's only a couple of grand for this job, but it does give us, you know, the good size combine with a draper header, so we don't have to mess around either avoiding traffic with the header still attached, or loading it onto a trailer to then take it somewhere to then get it off the trailer. It's just nice and simple. It folds up and gets towed behind quite comfortably and easily. So here we go. Here is the cell point. There's the cell box. Nope. Other side of the building. There it is. So let's see how much we'll get paid for this job. Yeah, 2,800 minus the leasing costs that we paid at the start. So 2,300. Now, instead of completing this job, what we're going to do is move on to another grain job. There's this one here, but there was a bigger field as well. This one here. Let's accept this contract here. So we need to head over to field 16, which is out towards Port Northwest. So we'll just run along the highway, then go, once we've got the tractor trailer there, we'll go back, get the combine, take that over and start harvesting that field as well, and we'll be able to use the same equipment. So, let's get started on the second field with the first set of equipment. Let's drop the header there, unfold, get that folded up as well. There we go, wheels tucking up, and away we go. Still soldiering away on this contract, and the amount of time it's taking is highlighting the importance of a good sized combine for the fields that you have to work. Now, the one that was supposed to be offered on this one, which we didn't take because we were still using the one from the previous job, was the Massey with the 25-foot header, and yeah, it would have finished this a long time ago if we were using that particular one. Also, you can see we're up to 0.9 hours use on this, so it's about to tick over at some point in the next few minutes to 1, and we'll see if we do have that extra. Oh, there we go, it's just ticked over to 1 hour, and no additional fees have been deducted, so there's no additional leasing costs. So as a result of that, that has decided, you know, for me that I won't be doing this as a regular thing going forward. Plus, you would to get the most out of doing something like this, you would need to have the biggest available bit of equipment, so that the small jobs you could rattle through ridiculously quickly, and the bigger jobs where you'd actually get the good payouts wouldn't take you an eternity to do. I mean, this one here, you can see it's, what, 3:45 in the afternoon now. We're still going. I did bring my trailer down from the farm to help deal with the harvest, because it was a lot, and it's a long journey to deliver it as well. It's all the way back at Port South East again. In a 26-mile-an-hour tractor, that's a long journey. So I brought my tractor down to speed things around in that respect, you know, reduce our distances, well, not reduce our distances, but reduce the time that we would spend delivering by half, by being able to deliver twice as much per trip. And yeah, it's making me think that, especially now that we've ploughed and combined fields 1 and 2, we need a larger combine, or at the very least we definitely need a larger header than just 4 meters. Otherwise it's going to take us an absolute eternity. I suppose the other alternative we could consider would be getting a second combine and running 2 combines, but I don't know, that just seems a bit more flawed than one decent sized combine. Plus, if we own a combine, that's a good size, something like this, for example, then we can actually use it ourselves on contracting jobs. It's pokey at some 20-something miles an hour when it's on the road. A header that we can transport with us with minimal fuss. We could actually move around quite a bit and do some decent contracting that way. If we owned something like this, it's just so expensive at the moment. We just don't have anywhere near the kind of money for another combine. We're about 100 grand short at the moment. And there we go, that is the harvesting complete. So we just need to deliver our grain now. That's another long journey back to Port Southeast again. I have already delivered 1 trailer worth of grain, so that's 21,000 litres that have already been delivered. And now we've got, another sort of 1 2/3, 1 3/4 trailers. This will be the last job that we do with this equipment. I'm going to return it after this one, cash in what we've got. Let's see, I'm trying to think what's going to be the quickest way from here. We'll take this little exit road out here by the barn. At the other end of this field, and then use that to kind of cut through, make our way over to the sell point. It'll be a little bit quicker than going the long way around. Potentially, it's not going to be that much in it, if I'm honest. We'll get this, as I say, dropped off, and then I think our crops should have started growing by now as well. The weeds are all taken care of. Have been now for a good couple of hours. So if we have got some crop growth, then that means we can apply our final stage of fertilizer that we need. So we'll break out the sprayer and start spraying our fields. Crop growth is turned back up to normal, so I'm hoping that by now we will have seen some growth. We should at least be at stage 1, maybe possibly even stage 2. So we need to get that spraying done before nightfall, because after nightfall, or as night falls and we skip through the night, those crops are going to grow quite a bit, and I don't want to find us in the same situation we inadvertently found ourselves in last time, where we didn't fertilize our canola properly and lost a lot of potential yield. So I want to make sure that we don't have that issue again. So I'll get this delivered, and I'll see you back at the farm. So let's turn these jobs in. First off, we want to turn in that one there. And we want to turn in that one there as well. There we go. And we've made, what, 10 grand? That's not too bad. Took a while to do it though. And you can see here that our crops have started growing. So our worker is over here having finished weeding. We'll get this back to the farm. Then we'll convert the wheel options on our case. We'll put some skinnies on that. We'll fit the sprayer to that, and we'll spray our fields, get them all up to stage 2, and then just got to wait for them to grow. So I might possibly turn crop growth up to fast overnight maybe encourage those fields to start coming in tomorrow. We do still need to buy the header for our combine so that we can harvest those sunflowers. And I'm kind of toying with the idea, given how long it took me to get all that combining done with an average sized combine, you know, one of the small to medium sized combines, ours being a small combine, and it's going to take an eternity to get all 3 of those fields done, especially just doing this field here. That's a big field for a 4 meter header and a 5,000 litre or 5,500 litre tank. That's going to take a lot of work. So I'm kind of leaning towards maybe getting that second combine after all. I'm not quite sure yet. Not sure how to go with that. Let's get this converted over. There we go. Park up near the workshop. Switch the wheel options to Trelleborgs. We'll go with narrow twins. There we go. Let's go get our sprayer. There should still be some spray left in that. But again, we can always back it up to one of our tanks if we need to top it up. Uh, 850. Yeah, we're going to need to top up. That's not going to be enough. I don't think that's even going to be enough to do this one field here. I'm starting to run out of spray again. Onto the final tank left. So we've got about 1,000 litres left after this. Hopefully that'll be enough to cover all of our fields. Tomorrow we're going to have to go shopping for some more by the look of it. It's been a while since we had to do a little sort of supply run. Hopefully we will not have as much sort of overspill waste with our field in this new configuration. To a headland along this end, and we're a bit low on the boom. We're catching the plants. Let's raise that up. There we go. That is just a sea of green now, isn't it? All those sunflowers just spreading out there as far as we can see. It's glorious. This is going to be a really good value crop for us. As I say, we do need to buy that header though. That header, how much is the header going to cost me? Let's have a look. Small helianthus, 22.5 grand. That's not too bad actually. That's not too bad at all. So I may well buy, as I say, buy one of those. Sorry, I may well buy a second combine to help us out here, because we are going to be up against it. I think this field won't take too long when it's got sunflowers on it, because the helianthus, 5.7 meters, is definitely wider than our 4 meter header, and allows us to run at 9 miles an hour, so 150% the speed that we would normally run at, which is always good. But with our other fields or with other crops, it's a different question, or a different answer. So I'll have to think about that. I think a lot of things to ponder as we head into the end of the day. So that's it from me. Thanks for watching. I am Jim Bob, and I'll be back with some more Felsbrunn Farm and maybe another combine very soon.